Okay, we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order, and I'll ask staff to do roll call, please.
Castroville.
Here.
County Monterey.
Here.
Delray Oaks.
Here.
Marina Coast.
Here.
Pacific Grove.
Here.
Salinas.
Here.
Sand City.
Here.
Seaside.
Here.
Veranda.
Here.
Monterey.
Here. Thanks, Chai. And with that, we'll go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm going to ask Mr. Ron here to kick us off with the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alrighty. And with that, we'll go to item 4 on the agenda, which is additions to agenda.
No additions.
There's been no request for additions. We'll move on to item 5, approval of agenda.
Move approval. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We'll take it out to the public. Anybody in the public wish to speak on this item? All right. Seeing none, bring it back for motion. And we already have the motion for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item 6 is public comments. So this is for non-agendized items. So if the item that you want to speak to today is on the agenda, this is not the opportunity to speak. This is for non-agendized items. Go ahead and open it for public comment for non-agendized items. Anybody on Zoom, you can use the raise hand function. All right. I'm not seeing any, so we'll move on to our consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Open it up to the public. Anybody in the public wish to pull an item from consent or speak to any of the consent agenda items? All right, seeing none, bring it back for approval. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. With that, we'll move to item 8A. Our first committee report is the Budget Personnel Committee. It was canceled, so no action is needed there. With that, we'll move on to 8B, which is the Recycled Water Committee. Is there a motion to approve?
Move to receive the Recycled Water Committee draft minutes of July 17th, 2026.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Bring it out to the public for public comment. All right, seeing none, bring it back to the board. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. With that, we're on to 9, which is our action items. 9A is consider certifying the final initial study, negative declaration for the Coral Street Pump Station electrical, relocation project. And with that, I will pass it to Matt for staff presentation.
All right. Good evening, board members. I'm Matt Thompson, your Director of Engineering. With me this evening is our Capital Improvement Projects Manager, Jennifer Gonzalez. The Coral Street Pump Station Electrical Relocation Project is critically important for protection of the ocean around Pacific Grove. Completing this project is a very high priority for us. Before we give our recommendation, I'm going to take some time to present why we are doing this project, some of the background on the project, as it is helpful to understand why we are proposing to locate the electrical system at Pacific Grove's golf course, and explain how we are being responsive to those who commented with concerns about the golf course site. Next slide, please. Here's a location of the pump station. It is right on the shoreline next to Ocean View Boulevard near the projection of Coral Street in Pacific Grove. The purpose of the pump station is to collect wastewater generated in the northwest part of Pacific Grove and pump it towards the regional treatment plant. Next, please. I've highlighted here in red the area of Pacific Grove that is served by this pump station. It is a remarkably large area, essentially serves half of the city. The wastewater generated in this area is nearly 500,000 gallons per day. This is relevant because if the pump station were to ever fail, it could result in a very large sewage spill to Monterey Bay. We want to do everything in our power to prevent this from happening. Next slide, please. Here's a photo of the top of the Coral Street pump station taken during a storm surge event in 2012. There have been many other similar events in the past. This concrete feature is the top of the dry well portion of the pump station. It's called the dry well because it contains critical electrical equipment that must remain dry for the pump station to function properly. We've done our best to seal up the top of the dry well, but it remains vulnerable to flooding. This occasional flooding is also dangerous to our operating staff. The real long-term solution is to relocate the electrical part of this pump station to an upland area that is not vulnerable to flooding. I must emphasize that the mechanical part of the pump station, the underground pumps and piping, are capable of running underwater. So it is not necessary to move the entire pump station. We only need to move the electrical part of the pump station. All right, next slide, please. This electrical relocation project was conceived around 2010. At that time, the city had a need to connect a portion of its stormwater system into the Monterey One water wastewater system. Normally, Monterey One water requires payment of connection fees for capacity taken in the wastewater system. The city offered Monterey One water some of its land for relocation of the electrical system in lieu of paying those connection fees. Here's a view of the area around the Coral Street pump station. I've highlighted the city-owned locations we've explored with the city as candidate sites for the electrical system. Esplanade Park is closest to the Coral Street pump station, and from a purely engineering perspective would be a good site. But there has been strong community opposition to that location, likely due to its visibility and the prevalence of protected cypress trees in that area. There are also known cultural resources at Esplanade Park. We also looked at the parking area northwest of the pump station, but there are a lot of known cultural resources there that would be impacted. The next closest location is the golf course. That is the site the city expressed as their preferred location in March 2024. Some of those who commented on the environmental document asked about the city's water recycling plant, shown here on the left side of this exhibit. In response to those comments, we prepared an additional feasibility study of that location. That location is roughly twice the distance from the pump station as the golf course site and would cost approximately 50% more to build. Construction would also require major disturbance to a long segment of Ocean View Boulevard, which would have a very high impact on the community. For these reasons, we have eliminated the city's water recycling plant site from further consideration. Next slide, please. Here's some more important background on the project. In 2012, Monterey One Water had identified Esplanade Park as its preferred location. We hosted a town hall meeting with city staff in Pacific Grove, and there was strong opposition to locating the electrical system at Esplanade Park due to its natural park setting. Some threatened to litigate. Jumping ahead to 2019, the city held a public process for adoption of its shoreline management plan. One of the strategies identified in that plan was to relocate the pump station electrical system to Esplanade Park. The majority of commenters supported relocating the electrical system, but the overwhelming majority specifically requested it not be located at Esplanade Park. In 2023, Monterey One Water applied for and received some community project funding from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. We've been using that funding to prepare a basis of design report and an initial study of the environmental impacts. The basis of design report is an engineering document that evaluates many of the alternative locations I described earlier. We provided that document to city staff in March 2024, who in turn requested the city council's direction on where to locate the electrical system. In late March 2024, city staff directed us to locate the electrical system at the northeast corner of the golf course. With direction from the city, we had our environmental consultant prepare an initial study of the environmental impacts at the golf course site. They determined the project would not result in any significant environmental impacts, so they prepared a mitigated negative declaration. We then circulated that document for public comment in October 2025. We received 24 comment letters, primarily from those who live near the golf course site. I'll elaborate on their comments and how we have responded. Also in late 2025, the Federal Emergency Management Agency awarded Monterey One Water a $4 million grant for completion of this project. These grant funding agencies expect these grant funds to be spent in a timely manner. We should not let this project languish, or we could risk losing the grant funding. FEMA has told us the project should be ready to begin construction in 2027. We are motivated to move ahead with the design and construction as soon as possible. Next slide, please. Here's some of the details about the project. It will include constructing a new electrical vault at the northeast corner of the golf course. It'd be approximately 22 feet wide, 22 feet square, in a spot that was carefully selected to not interfere with the golf operation. The facility will contain typical electrical equipment, which operates silently. It is important for the pump station to always have electrical power, so the facility will also include an emergency generator that will operate during power outages. We intend to enclose the generator as to mitigate noise when it is operating. The project also includes installing an underground electrical duct bank to the pump station. That's the line shown here on the exhibit on the right in yellow, running most of its length in Coral Street. After we complete the new electrical system, we will remove the old electrical equipment from the existing location and protect the remaining mechanical equipment. Next slide. Thank you. All right, we collaborated with our environmental consultant to prepare a full response to all 24 comment letters. And those responses are part of the document that we are asking you to certify today. We have been responsive to the commenters by refining the project to mitigate their concerns. These are the categories of comments we received with the corresponding responses. For the visual impacts, we are proposing a subterranean design to reduce the visibility of the electrical building. I'll show you in my next slides what that may look like. For the concerns about noise and vibration, the only aspect of the electrical system that will make noise or vibrate is the emergency generator when it is operating during a power outage. We intend to enclose the generator inside the building to minimize noise. We are also considering changing the design so the generator runs on natural gas instead of diesel fuel. Natural gas fuel generators are generally quieter and cleaner than diesel generators. We happen to have other pump stations with enclosed generators. After our last meeting on this project, we went out and tested noise levels outside of one of those enclosures with the generator operating and measured the noise at 65 decibels. Typical street traffic noise is 70 decibels. So this enclosed generator, when operating, would likely emit less noise than typical traffic. Our records indicate the generator will typically operate for less than 30 cumulative hours per year. For the concerns about light pollution, we will design the project to minimize exterior lighting and ensure the lighting is properly shrouded to prevent light pollution. Only one exterior light will be necessary at the main door to the station, and that can be turned on only when needed. All right. Go back to that slide, please. For traffic concerns, we will utilize remote telemetry systems to monitor the pump stations. This will help minimize the need for staff to visit the facility, typically visited about once a week. There will be temporary interruptions in normal traffic flow in that area during construction, but we will require a contractor to plan the work so that people can safely pass through the construction zone. More recently, we received some comments about construction dust. For that, we intend to specify that our contractors follow standard operating procedures prescribed by California's Occupational Safety and Health Administration, also called OSHA. All right, getting back to visual impacts. Here is the existing view of the golf course site from the middle of Crest Avenue to give you an idea of what it looks like today. Typical golf course setting. And next slide, please. Here is what the site would look like with the new subterranean alternative design. We've done a geotechnical investigation, and it should be feasible to place all of the electrical system in a buried concrete vault. We envision carefully grading the surface and adding vegetation surrounding the vault so it blends in seamlessly with the surrounding golf course. We presented this and other alternatives to the Pacific Grove City Council at a special study session on April 15th. The consensus of those we've heard from is this partial subterranean design is the preferred alternative. We've recently had additional meetings with city staff and some of the council members. They have given us good input on how we can further refine this design to reduce visibility. We intend to carry forward that input into the final design. One of the ideas we have is to tuck the vault a little further back from the roadway. You can see on the right there that existing mature established stone pine. If we tuck it back a little bit further, it would further screen it from view from some of the neighbors who are concerned about this project. All right. We're now at a point in the project where we need to certify the initial study and the mitigated negative declaration and move ahead with final design. We want to continue making progress towards completion and meet the expectations of the grant funding agency. We have been very responsive to concerns raised by commenters and have refined the project to mitigate their concerns. We recommend you certify the initial study and mitigated negative declaration, which is attached to the staff report. Thank you. At this point, Jennifer and I would be glad to answer any questions you have. After questions, I would recommend you open the floor for public comments. We have several people here today who I'm sure would like to comment on this item.
Thank you for the presentation, Matt. All right, we're going to open it up for, let's leave it to questions for now, and then we can deliberate after public comment. And let's start with Tina as the representative for PG.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to disclose that I've had a conversation with Mr. Shuto on Friday. My question to him was, can we change the location on the golf course to move it away from the road and tuck it behind two trees between the green and the ninth tee box? He said yes, but I do have some additional questions. First of all, I'd like to clear up for my own edification and for the public as well. I'd like to understand, when is the pump station scheduled to be moved? Because I've heard a lot of public comment that we should move the pump station and the electrical at the same time.
So the Coral Street pump station itself, the mechanical that Matt had referenced, is not scheduled to ever be moved within the next 30 years. We certainly have had, we have our 10-year plans. We've had a collection system master plan done. In none of those documents do we say we're going to move the mechanical portions of that pump station.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I'd like to also better understand the cost. The cost of the water treatment plant was estimated to be at
$14 million ballpark.
Okay.
So the estimates that we're talking about certainly are very preliminary. They're considered a class 5 estimate, which has a number of contingencies added to them, but that's the ballpark.
Okay. And when we received the Esplanade bid for, or the estimate for the work, what was that estimate?
Those were much lower. Those were in the 5.5 to 5.7 range.
And
However,
when we say that, was there ever a subterranean option presented to the public?
No. What we wanted to look at was just what would it be to move. We need to scrutinize those specific estimates because, frankly, they don't appear to be consistent with the other ones provided by the engineering firm. So we are looking into those as we speak, even though with all the contingencies and stuff, they are aberrantly low for the amount of work that is necessary.
Okay, that was my concern as well. And the cost of the golf course would be,
It's in the range of a little over 10 million. I think it was 10,030,000. I don't think we can get that precise at this level, but 10 million.
okay. I just wanted to clear up because I've heard a lot of numbers and I've seen some public numbers that were not in line with what we were told it was going to be.
Yeah, and I think we need to do a better job as well after with all the comments and looking at some of these estimates. I think there's others we need to drill down into and scrutinize the engineer's estimates.
And to be clear, Esplanade was ruled out before even a tunnel was dug to see how far down the granite was. Is that true?
Correct. Yeah, at the borings at the golf course site, as you're referencing.
Well, those borings were never done at Esplanade Park. Is
No,
that
they were
correct?
just done at
Because you were told that's just a no-go, don't even go there.
correct.
Okay. So I'd like to know, who told Monterey One that the golf course was the preferred location?
So my understanding, and I'll let Matt chime in if I'm off base here, is we had been in discussions with the city for a while and primarily working through the Public Works Director, Dan Go. We had draft agreements going back and forth between Monterey One Water and the city as early as September, October of 2023. I believe the city did discuss this in closed session. The following day, we heard from Mr. Go that the golf course was a preferred option and to move forward.
Okay.
Matt, is that fairly
That's
consistent?
correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So did you meet with any member of the PG City Council or staff on or around March 24?
I did not.
No, we were just in ongoing conversation, communication with Public Works Director Dan Go. And Dan Go was in turn coordinating with his city council.
Okay. And so, Mr. Shuto, you never met with any member of the PG City Council?
I did back in, I want to say 2017, 18, when I initiated discussions with then our chair, Rudy Fisher, and Ben Harvey, the then city manager. We had been in discussions back then. After Ben had left, I had discussions with Tori Hanna and Dan Go as well.
Okay. But no member of the City Council?
Not that I recall.
Okay. So that was in a closed session in March 24 that we
March?
were in the
That's
negotiation.
my understanding, correct.
77 of Sillamore. Is that correct?
At where?
That's the address of the golf course.
My understanding is that it was considered by the Pacific Grove City Council in March 2024.
Yes. Okay. Did you ever attend an open session in 2024 where the golf course location was discussed and approved?
No.
And is there a written agreement to use that city property? Did you enter into an agreement in March of 24?
We did not enter into agreement. We had a draft agreement that was going back and forth with comments.
But there was no signed agreement.
No signed agreement. No final agreement either.
Okay. Okay. I think those answered my questions for now, and we don't need the board to get into the City Council of Pacific Grove's responsibilities with this moving forward. And I don't think that it should derail whatever we're doing today. However, I think there's still going to be some additional questions. I would recommend that we get this into the public as soon as possible. And that's
Okay, any other questions at this point? Please.
Yeah, just as the picture we showed there where we're next to the road and talking about moving this back potentially to some stone pine, Italian stone pine. Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks for popping up. How far away from that tree are we talking about going?
It would certainly be outside of the critical root zone of the tree. The idea is to set the facility about 35 feet further from the roadway so that it's just tucked back a little bit.
So,
And it would be screened from the on its east side from view for those that live on the east side of the golf course.
because that's what I was concerned about, because every tree's a little different. And stone pine in general, but stone pine themselves, and I'm kind of familiar with trees. For those who might know, along conifers in particular, stone pine, they don't go, the taproot doesn't go really deep.
Yeah.
They and the reason you'll see Monterey pine, which of course our pine, fall over a lot because they have very shallow roots. And you have the same thing with stone pine, but they in particular tend to go out. The roots can go out 2 to 3 times the canopy.
Okay.
And they are known also to be getting pretty strong roots and can lift up asphalt and sidewalks and everything. So I'm just wondering in terms of how far away we might be from there, and making sure that we're not going to have any root damage coming in. And at the same time, I'm also just kind of wondering in terms of, you get down to this pump station, and I have to say I'm not a mechanical engineer on how they're constructed, nor I know there's water going through there. I don't know if there's any margin of leakage that's allowed at all. How concerned with that, but I just don't want the roots to get kind of pulled that way too.
Yeah, on a couple notes in response to that, with our next agenda item, we're going to be asking you to approve a contract extension with our design engineer. And I specifically have requested that they add a landscape architect to their team. And so what we can do is we get somebody, maybe an arborist or somebody that is particularly knowledgeable about how close we can get to that tree without harming the health of the tree. And we will certainly be careful.
Go with an
to
arborist,
mitigate.
not a landscape architect,
Yep.
because they won't be the expert onto.
Understood. And
Yeah.
so
Okay.
the next thing about the partially subterranean design, we know from our geotechnical investigation that there's bedrock about 10 feet below the ground surface, and there's a shallow layer of perched groundwater that kind of moves across that bedrock layer. And much like many of the homes in this neighborhood, we anticipate this, like a basement, would have a sump pump to deal with the nuisance water. And we would certainly design the vault to be essentially watertight.
Okay.
So that electrical gear is not
So,
susceptible.
as they say, as you look at that picture and you can see that canopy, because stone pine have that big canopy, unlike you see the cypress there, and I think there's some pine in the back that tend to go up. But if you look at that and you realize that those roots are going to go out not just to the canopy, but potentially 2 or 3 times past that. So those roots might already be going close to the road.
Okay.
So it's just something to consider out of that.
Understood. Thank you.
Anybody else? Please.
Yes. I would like to ask a question about the sensitive cultural sites. So I know that they are locations in different areas, quite a few are along the coast of Pacific Grove, since that was the homeland of the Esalen, Rumps, and Ohlone communities.
Mm-hmm.
And as we continue to this day, even with construction, even on Lighthouse, there's burials that's been unearthed. This has been at the aquarium. This has been at the Monterey Plaza Hotel on Cannery Row. So I would like to speak on behalf of the Native community that there are many cultural sites in the area. And I know that this has come to my attention over in Pacific Grove with some of the community. There's, I think, a naval station that they were wanting to put something there, build something there. But I ask that we continue to look at preserving these cultural sites. They were here before any houses, before any golf course. And, let's not forget them. They're ancestors of our Native American community. So with that, respect the Native community. And I'm sure that we are going around those areas. So just
I want to make sure if what I thought I understood from the report was that the PG council, city current council management had weighed in on this. Because March of 2024 precedes an election of, so is this kind of a surprise to the current council and administration or not? Because I mean, based on what I've seen and the concerns, the mitigation looks appropriate, proper. Listen to Supervisor Church on the arborist, all those things are important. But having said that, the current council's the current council, and we don't need to get into your business, but I'm not a big fan of if this is of concern to the PG council who currently has the ball, that would concern me. So I just want to make sure I understand exactly what I understood from the report, because there's part of me that says, yeah, it looks good, and I can be casual about it, and then I go back to Salinas and deal with my own problems. But you knew about the problems. But I think it's really important if something's sensitive and folks have expressed some concerns about it. Knowing we all can't please everyone all the time. I mean, if the current council has some concerns, I mean, there's part of me that says, should we be voting on this or continuing it? But I'm asking it because I'm not quite sure what I heard based on your questions, which were perfectly appropriate, but I'm not sure where we are. Please.
Mr. Chair, thank you. I can't speak for the entire council, and we haven't spoken about this, but from my perspective, I'm not in favor of undoing anything that a previous council has done for whatever reason they did it. However, it appears as though after my Friday meeting with Mr. Shuto, that we discovered that this never, in March of 2024 and since, it never came back to open session. What was discussed at that closed session in March of 2024, it never came back, and there was never a signed agreement. I don't think that that precludes the work we're doing tonight. Okay. And there's going to be an architectural review. There's going to be a planning commission review, and I'm fairly certain that somehow this is going to end up in front of the Coastal Commission. So I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities to hone this. But at this point right now, and the reason that I suggested to Mr. Shuto that they get in front of the city council in an open session is so that we can get a signed agreement, we can hear public comment, and we can move forward in a way that I think would make me comfortable, would make Councilmember Garfield comfortable. This is in her district, and she has expressed concerns, not just about the project, but also about the process.
Well, I'm going to be a person of deep principle. I vote after PG, right?
Chai, I got $10.
All right.
Make me last.
All right, let's take it out for, you have a question?
Yes, just one question. So you may recall at the Recycled Water Committee, you discussed a somewhat minor detail, and that is that by putting this in the ground in a perched aquifer, meaning an aquifer that has some water in it, there may be a need for drainage and a sump pump. And given the concerns about noise, although sump pumps probably wouldn't be heard, I had asked whether or not it might be possible to do away with the sump pump by using the same trench in which you were putting electrical to drain down to an appropriate manhole cover. Has staff been able to verify whether that's at least potentially still feasible as an idea?
Not yet. We conceptually it is feasible.
Yeah.
It'd be one of the alternatives that we consider when we get our design engineer back on board. One thing we might do is we might actually use that subsurface water beneficially. Remember we talked about screening the facility from view with nice vegetation. As you may know, it's kind of difficult to get a water meter in this area. And so that would be potentially our water source for irrigation of that surrounding vegetation. So we're going to look at a couple of options.
Yeah, so these options, as we move into design, actual design, we'll be vetting those.
Thank you. Appreciate that response.
Okay. And with that, we'll go ahead and take it out for public comment. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask for those that want to speak on public comment for this one to identify yourself at the beginning of the public comment period. So then, but that way we'll have a sense of everybody that's going to talk. And then we're going to figure out how much time we're going to dedicate to each person to speak. So I'm going to start with folks on Zoom. If you can use the raise hand function. And while you navigate your way there, I'm going to check with folks in the chamber. Anybody in the chamber wish to speak on this item? So I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 folks. Okay, so we're going to cut it off to those 8 folks in the room. And then I'm going to give folks a last minute chance to raise your hand on Zoom. So I'll do a countdown for folks on Zoom to raise your hand so that you can speak on public comment on this. And then after the cutoff, you won't be able to raise your hand. So if you want to speak, raise your hand now. So I'll do a countdown, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So I only see the one speaker on Zoom. So we're going to leave it to the one speaker on Zoom. Let's go ahead and start in the chamber. We're going to do 2 minutes each. So whoever wants to start. And please go ahead and start queuing up too, so that we can try to get through the public comment period a little bit more
I'm gonna be
efficiently.
fast.
No, you're good.
Hi, my name is Debbie Rappa. I live across the street from the site. I have a petition here from golfers and from residents. The golfers are upset because when they overshoot right where the putting green is, it goes in the specific site. I see them teeing off back into the green. So then they walk over, they're driving over the site with their carts to get to the 9th tee off. So I just wanted to mention that. But when you look at that site and that photograph, when you were talking about the trees, the pines, they both have pitch canker. They are going to die sooner or later. Those trees will be cut down. Okay? So my view is the cypress that's way in the back, there's a fairway that nobody overshoots. It's adjacent to the first tee, and it's far away from the putting green and all the noise that the construction is going to cause. If they put it a little deeper in the fairway, it'll be away from everybody. Now, I know those old cypress trees have lots of roots, but if you can scoot it a little bit more out of the view and the putting green and the 9th tee, I think a lot of the golfers will be happy, because I'm hearing they're cussing. They're so mad. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, you guys. I'm going to ask you first, have you ever heard of the Paper Reduction Act? Did anybody look at that when you had your consultant prepare the IS? I mean, there's an information overload in it, and it's really the overload to just citizens of PG and anyone who looks at the doc. I just completed 34 years with the Federal Emergency Management Agency. I worked out of a Presidio in San Francisco, and then in Oakland after that. One of my responsibilities in the so-called Environmental Historic Preservation Corps was to go around the state and give people an idea what the requirements are for the National Environmental Policy Act and how that corresponds with CEQA. And I have to tell you that I've never seen anything as bad as this IS. It's an information overload, and it does not provide enough detail for just anybody on the street to understand. Or not on the street, but just the public that we are here to understand. It throws out a lot of engineering buzzwords, and it has engineering drawings that I can't read. And it just seems to me that it's not a very friendly document to understand for the people that have to look at it and understand what that effect is going to be on their homes or in their neighborhood. And I can say that that's about all I can say. I'm profoundly disappointed in it. And as an environmental professional, responsible for the National Environmental Policy Act for all these years, and also, again, repeating myself, a secret, it's a poor document. It's sort of like someone had taken out the goals and the purview of every federal agency and just copied and pasted that in a report. I don't need to know essential fish habitat or national farmlands protection. That doesn't apply to the project. However, it's in there, paragraph after paragraph. What has that got to do with the project? Anyway, I'm over time.
Hi, Matt Delacour. I live at 50 Coral Street in Pacific Grove. This is a tale of two sites. One, Esplanade Park, was chosen for its proximity, its cost, and its superiority in the ranking system used by the engineers. Community, via the Pacific Grove Shoreline Management Plan, overwhelmingly supported the site. Then something happened. Your report said that there was pushback from stakeholders, and there was talk of a possible lawsuit. If there was pushback, could it have been because the project included the stinky wet well part being relocated as well? And they got a community meeting. That's interesting because we didn't get one. I've submitted 2 public records requests to Pacific Grove for any public commentary against using Esplanade for this facility. And the city did not provide any record of such pushback. Hey, it was almost a decade and a half ago. Who knows what really happened back then? But the decision was made not to use Esplanade, and this is the original sin of this tale. There's been a lot of discussion about the lack of community involvement, actually more like attempt to hide this project from residents near the golf course and intentionally suppress public participation. Even the legally required notification is suspect. For example, I have a picture of the notice that was posted on Ocean View for the ISMD. Not very helpful. All along, we've been told that this project was just in the initial stage of the process, and we have lots of opportunities to comment, but not to discuss. But now we're being told that this project is running out of time, and we have to push ahead and get it built almost exactly as it was originally presented. Well, it's not too late. It's never too late to make the correct decision. You've been told that there are cultural resources, natural resources, and angry neighbors at Esplanade, but all those things exist at the golf course as well at half the cost. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lila Selden. Thank you for this opportunity. We, along with hundreds of beach track neighbors, oppose the Coral Street project. Our home on the corner of Balboa and Coral is one of 35 homes within 100 feet of the project. There are hundreds of adjoining neighbors' homes that are negatively impacted by the 2-year construction plan. Especially concerning is a very deep trench of the length of 5 blocks along Coral for 24 months. The Pumps Electrical Station golf course site without proper mitigation. The IS misrepresented and omitted information. The IS does not state the environmental impact of living next to and breathing in the granite dust and particles from the trench. The 2-year construction plan exposes us to construction vehicle exhaust emissions, traffic congestion and noise. There's no plan to reduce the pollutants to us seniors and children and grandchildren, as the IS defines us as sensitive receptors. Where are the potential effects for emergency services, fire protection, ambulance response time that many of us seniors rely on? Where are the large work vehicles and equipment going to be stored during this time? Not listed. The site is our wildlife corridor that is zoned for open space, especially for protected species and their sensitive habitat. The city of Pacific Grove has passed an ordinance banning this type of project in this location. We support alternative sites. The true public participation has not been elicited fairly. As beach track neighbors, we had only a few months to respond to the project proposal, and only a few residents were notified. We moved to our home in Pacific Grove because it's family friendly and a healthy environment. We didn't anticipate this dramatic and possible negative change to our lifestyle. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jessica Denacor, and I'm a member of the Beach Track Neighbors. I respectfully ask the committee and the board to reject certification of the final initial study mitigated negative declaration. I support the need for reliable electrical infrastructure and recognize that protecting that critical infrastructure from climate-related impacts is essential. The environmental impacts of a 24-month construction project on this neighborhood are far greater than the report acknowledges. The proposed mitigations rely largely on best practices rather than enforceable commitments, while significant concerns remain regarding emergency services, access, construction noise, air quality, and other impacts to nearby residents. Additionally, the final initial study mitigated negative declaration does not commit to a 22 by 22 footprint or undergrounding the facilities. It also important to note that the Recycled Water Committee made its recommendation without being provided the draft report, which included the detailed drawings and proposed mitigation measures that did not match what was voiced during the questions by the committee in the meeting on July 17th. Those materials are actually in the presentation today, but that footprint is bigger than 22 by 22, and the final document states that the footprint isn't going to change. I also urge you to consider more fiscally responsible alternative. Why spend $10 million on a project when a comparable solution can be completed for approximately $5 million? First time I've heard that maybe the numbers aren't right. And having less disruption to the neighborhood. The EPA and FEMA funding can be applied regardless of the selected location, and project timelines with them are routinely negotiated. There is no reason to certify the project and approve a detailed design budget when you know the proposed site presents the same environmental, biological, and cultural resource concerns, conflicts with existing Pacific Grove land use ordinances, and continues to face strong public opposition. Thank you.
Hi, Walter Wagner. First of all, I don't live in Pacific Grove. I visit a lot. I spend most of my time in Salinas and Veranda, so I don't have the vested interests of the persons who've been speaking. It's my opinion that no matter where you locate it, you're going to find a lot of people who object to something that's going to be in their immediate backyard or their immediate neighborhood, so that's to be expected. I have to go with what you've said before. The Esplanade site is probably not available. If that's not true, then that would be, you'd want to look at it again. But I understand that that's been looked at before, and it really wasn't very conducive to the project. With respect to the existing siting, the one woman from PG suggested moving it back further away so that the golfers aren't affected. That might be something you might want to review. But generally speaking, building something of that nature is fairly straightforward. I don't think it's going to take a full 2 years to do that. I know you set up a 2-year timeline, but I've worked in construction and I've built vaults like that, underground vaults before at airports and places like that. And it's really straightforward, simple construction. And I'm fairly certain that the engineering staff can address any of the issues that have been raised. So I'd support either the existing location or moving it a little bit further back on the golf course so it doesn't cause a problem for the golfers. Thank you.
Was there one more speaker?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, I was just the queue up person. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jacqueline Harmer. At this point, I feel a bit like Odysseus, tossed about on the wine dark seas. Fear not. What I have to say won't take 10 years, not even 3 hours, although my letter took a bit longer. Besides, I've only got 2 minutes. If you read the report, you'll know something about the history of this project, reaching back in time to 2012, and you heard Mr. Thompson's report, and you might be as confused and worried as Helen must have been. The report seems to some a bit of a Trojan horse. However, unlike the unwitting and trusting Trojans, you, the board, are not under pressure. You can take time to take another look at this apparition to see if there's anything that might have been missed in the report, something unclear, something that warrants not opening the gates quite yet tonight. No doubt either project, whether protecting our bay waters, upgrading our infrastructure, or rescuing Helen, is a worthy and even vital project, no dispute there. However, the Coral Street project at this location is not as watertight as the Siege of Troy. A better site was dismissed with no compelling explanation. This precise location, is a poor neighborhood fit and a burden on nearby homes. Much of the report, especially the mitigations, rest on conjecture. It's going to be expensive for Monterey County ratepayers. And nobody asked Helen for her opinions, or in this case, me and my neighbors. For these reasons, though I'm no oracle, I ask you to consider what I've said and defer your vote on this project for a short period. I think it was PG Mayor Smith himself at the Recycled Water Committee who said something like, showing a healthy skepticism, I wouldn't want a wooden horse like that in front of my gates. Anyway, let's not make the mistakes that Odysseus did. Let's take time to chart a better way home to an appropriate location with visible mitigations at a lower cost to all concerned, along with enthusiastic neighborhood support. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for that very timely and interesting.
Have you seen it?
Yes.
Sorry,
Yeah.
time's up.
Yeah, no, it was great. Thank you for it.
Peter Cowley, resident Pacific Grove. I'm very concerned when I go get a property profile for the golf course and I receive a copy of the boundaries of the APN number for holes 8 and 9. The city of Pacific Grove and Duffy and Associates and different entities failed to notify all parties that are located within 300 feet of the boundaries of the golf course APN number 006-101-001-000. Anytime I've done a development project, I've required not to put in 300 feet from the proposed site of the building, but from the boundaries of the project. So perhaps maybe that's why Monterey One Water did not receive very many complaints or concerns or comments about this proposed site. The next item that I object to is when Duffy and Associates mailed out their comments. The comments went out in October of 2025, pretty much after Monterey One Water and the city of Pacific Grove had made their decision that the alternative site on the golf course was a better location. So then we come into some information today. I have not verified this, so please be cognizant of that fact. And I don't want to be sued. I'm telling you now ahead of time, I have not verified this information. But the City of Pacific Grove members of the council made the decision in closed session that Esplanade was not the site for this generating station. My concern is when a member of the City of Pacific Grove lives 2 houses away from the proposed site on the Esplanade, that bears some question in my mind as to what's going on. There was not full open disclosure, and I have concerns on that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All
I
right.
would like to talk more, but 2 minutes is it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And with that, we'll go to our public commenter on Zoom.
Go ahead, Jean. Gene Beasley,
Okay,
you're muted.
yeah.
Go ahead.
This is actually Andy Cow, her husband. We are residents of Pacific Grove and live out on Ripple Avenue. And I'd first like to preface my comments by saying, kind of on the same lines as Pete, that we didn't receive a notice of this meeting until today. So there is a bit of communication, delayed communication that's been going on with the residents, and this is not the first time we've been notified late of these sorts of meetings. Now, I have three comments. One is regarding the groundwater. I don't know if the council is aware that there has been a sinkhole in the middle of the intersection of Coral and or just up Ripple, where a gutter crosses the street. It's a sinkhole that's opened up 2 years ago and took like 3 or 4 different fills to stop it sinking. It opened up again this year. And so there is some active undermining that's going on. There may be a lot more water than is anticipated. The second thing that I'd like to mention is that sump pumps, the curves are all messed up around here, and there's standing water from sump pumps, and a sump pump draining the facility would exacerbate that. We get algae growing in the gutters, which is a safety hazard. The last comment I'll make, or question I'll make, is I'd like to know how many hours the diesel backup generators are authorized to run per year. Oh, they did? Oh, pardon me. I came in late. And anyway, that was the last one. So thank you very much. I appreciate the time.
Okay. All right. With that, we'll go ahead and close public comment and bring it back to the board for motion and deliberation. Who would like to kick us off? Please.
Well, I do have a question. So, and I guess this is for legal counsel. Is the city of Pacific Grove going to be a responsible agency with respect to the environmental document?
I don't believe so, Director Moore. I think if I could comment on the process, there is no agreement in place because CEQA had to be completed before an agreement could be entered. So that's what's occurring here. They won't be a responsible agency relative to this. When the city takes action, if they do, to convey the property, then they would probably tier off of this MND. I don't know what they'll do. Does that answer your question?
Well, my understanding is that a responsible agency would look at the existing document themselves in advising their decision making about the environmental impacts.
Yeah, this is not their CEQA document. This is our CEQA document for our project.
You understand, but I guess the projects, they've got to give us property at some point, and it's in their neighborhood. That's why I'm asking this question.
Who else? Is there a motion? All right. I'll go ahead and move approval for the mitigated negative declaration with the final initial study. This did come up as articulated in the Recycled Water Committee meeting, and I'm not going to articulate all of the points that I made during the Recycled Water Committee meeting, but the point that I will raise, and Mayor, you brought this up a little bit earlier, the politics around the site, I think need to be figured out. And I appreciate Tina being here today, asking the questions that she has and giving a sense of what needs to be done in order to help address the remaining issues associated with the project. This is not over. We're not deciding to move forward with the project at this point. We're simply accepting the mitigated negative declaration. And I don't think that it's our responsibility on this board to get in the middle of politics that exist within the city of Pacific Grove. So those things need to be figured out within the city. I feel confident that the council is going to engage with the public in a meaningful way. And so for those reasons, I go ahead and make that motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, so moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Please.
Just a comment. I'm going to key in on what you just said and what Tina said. Accepting something, because we went through a similar process for something, is it actually ended up being people weren't in agreement on a park site, and I think particularly on a park site, you should bring people together and find common ground. This is obviously more sensitive, but I had to go back and explain to the group that wasn't in fact, you didn't lose. We're just simply moving the study forward, which is not the same thing. So I'm basically correct on based on everything I've heard and based on Tina's comments. This still has every opportunity to either be further mitigated or possibly not move forward or sites change. I mean, that's still all in play, correct?
100%.
Okay. All right. Just want to be clear on that.
Okay.
So I'll second your motion.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Any other discussion on the motion? All right. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. With that, we'll move on to item 9B, which is consider award a professional services agreement to TJC and Associates, Inc. to provide engineering services for the Coral Street Pump Station Electric Relocation Project in the not to exceed amount of $991,960. And with that, I believe this is going to Jennifer.
Great.
Hi,
Thank you.
Jennifer.
Good evening, Chair Williamson and members of the board. I'm Jennifer Gonzalez, the CIP manager. TJC originally proposed to finalize design and continue through the construction phase for $891,210. After proposals were evaluated, M1W staff requested that TJC adds several modifications to their scope, including additional landscape, structural, and drainage items associated with moving the electrical equipment to an underground vault. These items were in response to neighborhood concerns that we spoke about earlier. The additional scope required a revision to the original scope and fee that was proposed. The total amount of the contract will now be $991,960. Staff asks that the board award a professional services agreement to TJC and Associates, Inc. to provide engineering services for the Coral Street Pump Station Electrical Relocation Project in the not to exceed amount of $991,960. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions from the board, please?
Does that fee include the landscape architect and the arborist?
Yes, it does.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, let's take it out to the public. Anybody in the public wish to speak on this item? For folks on Zoom, you can use the raise hand function. Anybody else in the chamber wish to speak on this item? All right, we'll go to our one speaker, please.
Okay, one comment that I'll make is we're going to spend $1 million. We're going
You
to
can just pull that mic down right there. And
You're being asked to approve $1 million for design services and construction, but we still have all the questions about whether it can be put in the location. The public's never been involved in this location, and we're going to approve, or you're going to be asked to approve dollars to be spent to actually do design and construction. So I would ask that the question be asked by you guys, what would be the schedule of those dollars being spent? Will the public be acknowledged in PG and talked to before you start spending $1 million on design, and then you don't want to go back? You know, you okay this, and then you don't want to go back. Oh, we've already spent the money. We've already put the design in. We've already engaged this party. So I would ask you to ask that question. Thank you.
Thank you for. Wait, sir, just wait, sir. Make sure you get to the mic so that folks online can hear you.
We're kind of pushing this quickly. This money that you want.
Make sure that mic is right in front of you. I apologize. I just want to make sure that folks online can hear you.
Okay, my name again is Stephen Laughlin, and I just want to piggyback on this individual said. You want to spend the money and you want to get it obligated. You want to get that money down the road as fast as you can. But this is your document. You're stating to the rest of the world that the potential effects have been mitigated, and let's get moving. This document,
Sir,
is,
sir,
I'm sorry.
I apologize. I want to make sure that your comments are relative to the item that's in front of us.
Yeah,
You're speaking to the negative deck, and that's already been discussed.
Well,
So
tangential to that, what I'm saying is that you're gonna obligate this money, and you're obligated on action you've taken tonight. You've got your environmental impacts, close that door and everything else. But this hasn't stopped yet. The document that you're going to spend money on, or that leaves you to spend money on, is not adequate, and it's vulnerable to all kinds of challenges, both on the federal level and on the state level. You may find that after you get this money out, you get a consultant out, you got an engineering firm out, that you're going to have to turn around and change everything that you wish for. And the obligation here is going to cost more money. So obviously, I think this is an unwise move to obligate this funds at this time. Thank you.
thank you, sir. All right, and with that, we'll go ahead and close public comment, and I'll pass it to staff to answer the question posed here. I think it's a good question.
Yeah, I'd like to address this one.
Please.
We have about 13 months of design and permitting work ahead of us. And the way these actions work, assuming you were to approve this item today, our design engineering firm likely wouldn't ramp up and start spending down this money for about 60 days. So we anticipate that if this item were to go to the Pacific Grove City Council in the coming 2 months, let's say, and let's say one hypothetical situation is the city of Pacific Grove directs us to put it in a different location, we would still need to hire this engineering firm to continue making progress on the design of this project in order to have it ready for bidding and construction in the summer of 2027 and to remain eligible for the FEMA grant. So we don't think that this is exclusive of what was of the certification of the environmental document.
So what I hear you saying is that the obligating of the funds isn't tying it to the site specifically. It's just more for the project, regardless of the location.
If the site were to change within the next couple of months, the funding that we're asking you to approve today would simply be directed to that other site.
I think maybe to ask a more direct question, are we going to hold off as an agency on executing the funds if we haven't heard from PG in their decision of regarding their recommendation of location?
In the interest of making progress towards satisfying the grant funding agencies, my advice would be to move ahead with the final design work. We can slow roll the start of the design work until we get additional clarity in the coming weeks or 2 months from the city of Pacific Grove. That's a reasonable course of action. Then we could, assuming they bless the golf course site or they direct us to another location, then we can really launch into final design at those other locations. Now, what I would add is that if the city of Pacific Grove were to, for example, want to relocate it to, let's say, Esplanade Park, we would have to redo the initial study and mitigated negative declaration to study the environmental impacts at that alternative site. So we would have to come back to you and request some additional funding for our environmental consultant and expedite the preparation of a new environmental document and essentially have to run that in parallel with this design work. So our recommendation would be to continue moving ahead with the design work.
And Matt, I would contend that running concurrently is appropriate. However, I think it's also reasonable to bring back a cost-loaded schedule to the Recycled Water Committee just on what we're doing. It's not, as Matt mentioned, in the next few, I'm going to say next few weeks, a month, they're not going to burn, the consultant, a significant amount of dollars. It is getting up to speed on the project and do the administrative part. Within that time frame, we'll have a Recycled Water Committee where we can provide a cost-loaded schedule and work with Pacific Grove.
And to me, part of what I'm hearing out of this conversation too is that PG needs to be a little bit diligent in prioritizing this conversation so that we can have the discourse that needs to occur with the public. I see a few hands. We'll start over here.
God bless you. So one member of the public commented on suggesting a movement that of the site that sounded like it might be 50 or 100 or maybe even 200 yards. Would that trigger a requirement for a complete full new environmental document?
The suggestion to set the facility a little further back from the roadway at the golf course site would mean moving it only about 35 feet deeper into the golf course location. We ran that same question by our environmental consultant. They advised us that because it was still within the envelope of area that they evaluated for the environmental impacts, it would not require any amendment to the environmental document that you just certified.
So that distancing is possible without.
Correct. There's a little bit of flexibility with the precise location within that golf course site. Now, if to be clear, if it were to ultimately be moved to a totally different location, we would have to do essentially a new environmental document for that particular location.
Would it be a new or would it be a supplement to the
There's
existing?
a possibility that it could be an amendment, but still would require
Sure, some more
pretty
attention.
hefty analysis of the environmental impacts of that particular site.
Okay, thank you.
Was there another hand up over here? Was there? Please.
Yeah. So I'm going to kind of go back to my previous comments here a little bit. And the only reason I have any kind of concern with regarding the tree and everything is because we're talking about moving this, and I haven't heard exactly how close we're moving it to the tree. And really want to emphasize arborist and not a landscape architect, because landscape architect, they have some general knowledge, but they're architects. Yeah, they're going to go to a specialist for the information, and if they're a good architect, and it's better for us just to go straight to an arborist. So we want to make sure we're including an arborist in there. There was a comment here that the tree had pitch canker. Should bring this in so people can hear me. You didn't tell me.
Sorry,
about that.
I was immersed in your comment.
Sorry about anybody didn't hear me online on all this, but stone pine are generally pretty resistant to pitch canker, so it would be really good to have that. They're not Monterey pine are a lot more susceptible, so the tree could have it and not die and could be there. And my concern is that those roots potentially damaging this structure, because those kind of trees have really, really strong roots. So just want to make sure we really focus upon the root structure on the tree.
All right. Was there a hand up over here, please?
Yeah, just real quickly. I'm comfortable. You have to choose a firm. We have to choose a budget number, and I'll go back to the park analogy I made, that we were considering an $8 million park, but the design piece was $78 million or $78,000. So that was essentially the risk capital, whether we choose to pass or play. So I understand getting familiar with the project, but if is there a number in that process that you would kind of view as risk? I mean, is there $100,000 risk if the project moves in a different direction? Because I think getting started, obviously we've got a deadline, we've got grant funding that's critical part of it, but because I think sometimes what folks don't understand, just because we make the asked for move tonight, a budget and a firm, it doesn't necessarily trigger an expenditure. Though I understand what you were saying, some dollars are going to begin to move. Yeah. And I haven't heard anyone in Pacific Grove say, don't do this, where to do it, how to do it, different conversation. So if there's a reroute, what's at risk? $100,000?
Sir, I apologize, but please be careful. Let's not engage in public comment.
So probably less than that, but I mean, that's probably a good ballpark in terms of getting the project set up, bringing an arborist out, going to the site. It would probably be hopefully after PG is able to meet, but I think that is reasonable.
Am I looking at it in the correct?
You absolutely are. And that's why I would propose bringing back that cost loaded schedule so the board could sort of see when the significant expenditures in this design contract
are. I mean, I think the general disposition of the board is that, and I mean, I certainly hear this as everyone's preference, but I mean, I think we want to make sure I mean, this board has a chance to hear some, August is probably too quick, but no later than September, just so we know where we are. I mean, I can't speak for PG, but we can ask this, can we try and make that happen?
Yes.
Okay.
Beautiful.
That's it.
All right. Well, I entertain a motion if there's somebody that'd like to take a stab at it. I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All right. Any other discussion? Just trying to give folks an opportunity here. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. With that, we'll move on to item 10A. It's our only information item for this evening. Fiscal year 2025-26 Legislative Advocacy Report, Quarter 4. And this one we have Rachel.
Good evening, Chair Williamson and members of the board. Rachel Godoyne, Community and Legislative Affairs Manager. This item is for information only. And as a reminder, this quarterly legislative report is new this year. Our intent is to provide greater transparency into Monterey One Water's advocacy efforts and the work being done on the agency's behalf. All right, the key takeaway this quarter is that we remained proactive in strengthening relationships and positioning Monterey One Water for future funding opportunities. So during this past quarter, we continued our advocacy at the federal, state, and regional levels, including visits to both Washington, D.C. and Sacramento to meet directly with legislators and regulatory agencies. Face-to-face conversations are valuable opportunities, and we used that time to discuss Monterey One Water's priorities, including our master plan and our strategy for building a strong funding portfolio to support its implementation. We also supported our regional partners by providing letters of support for the cities of Monterey and Seaside as they pursue grant funding, state grant funding for sea level rise planning. Beyond these highlights, the report provides a detailed overview of the federal and state legislative and regulatory issues we're monitoring, along with updates on the advocacy efforts that support our strategic priorities. Overall, these efforts help ensure Monterey One Water has a voice in the policy decisions that affect our operations today, while positioning the agency for a strong future. Again, this report is for information only, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, are there any questions? Thank you for the presentation. Any questions from the board? Anybody? Hello. Oh, please go ahead.
Thank you for the report. Maybe just for clarification, which offices did you meet with? I know you mentioned you met with offices in Sacramento and Washington, D.C., and I think just if we can expand a little bit on that.
Sure. So we met with Assemblymember Don Addis. We met with Senator John Laird. We met with the State Water Resources Sorry, let's actually start with elected officials. That'll be easier for me. I then popped over to DC where I met with Senator Schiff's office, Senator Padilla's office, Congressman Panetta's office, and Congresswoman Lofgren's office. Switching back on the state side to regulatory bodies, we also met with the State Water Resources Control Board, the California Energy Commission, and I'm missing somebody. Thank you. And CalRecycle. Don't tell them that. And CalRecycle at the state.
Actually, at the state board, it was
chair,
DFA staff, as well as 2 of the board members.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Has there been any conversation or I guess what efforts, if any, have been made by the agency as it relates to the CDO? And what does that look like as far as the hearings that are coming up? What is M1W's role in that?
Yeah, that's a great question that I'm going to kick out to Paul Tyler. Because I think Paul, this is me just giving him a little time to think about his answer. I think Paul, as our executive officer, should answer that question.
So obviously I have been in discussions with Dave Stolt and others. At this point, we have not been active in pursuing those hearings and meetings and things like that. Just I always felt that was a little bit outside of our lane, that we're producing the water. I think Tammy and crew are doing a great job. But in terms of advocating for any relief or amendment to the CDO, we are not doing. We will certainly support other people's efforts in giving them the data and the information that we are doing.
Awesome. Please.
Unless I hear otherwise, of course.
So just one question. In your list of priority bills, you list 4 that indicate whether we should support or oppose them, but then there are another 7 which seem to be fairly pertinent to our business, some about PFAS and water quality, et cetera, but no indication of a position that we ought to take. Is this because we're still analyzing them, or it's a neutral position and you're just leaving that off in the list?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a lot goes into deciding whether we support or oppose a bill. And actually opposing a bill is pretty rare for Monterey One Water. We really have to see a very clear nexus to what is typically broader strategy for us to take a stance like that. So some of the items that go into how we determine if we're going to support or oppose is obviously looking at impact to the agency, not necessarily having nexus. Nexus might just be monitoring, but it really comes down to what is the impact we see on the agency or the industry as a whole. And when that industry as a whole may then impact funding that funnels to future key priorities. That latter one being pretty critical and oftentimes more likely the justification for why we are going to support or oppose something. It's looking to the future and those larger impacts to the industry. And so the ones that don't have specific support or oppose, we haven't taken action on. And like you said, it's typically because the nexus there is one more we feel comfortable monitoring than taking a stance on.
Okay, thank you.
And frankly, I would look at those as watch. So you're familiar with the Association of California Water Agency, and they do the support if amended, watch, oppose, and so on. And frequently just nothing there is our watch.
Okay. Or if you wanted to be clear, just add the word watch.
When are the public comments due? Does anybody know off the top of their head the public comment
For the CDO?
Yeah. Isn't it coming up like this week? Isn't it like this week
I
or
thought it was August, early August.
I don't have the deadline.
this week or next week or something like that?
Yeah.
So I don't know if we even have the ability to be able to give staff direction at this point, if we wanted to. Right? Because our next board meeting isn't until after the
Right.
August 19th.
Yeah. So, okay. Anywho, all right. Well, I'm not seeing any other takers. So thanks again, Rachel, for the presentation. And with that, we will move on to item 11, staff reports.
So my staff report is actually a question. Would you like me to put something regarding CDO stance amendment involvement on the August board meeting? I know it's after the comment period, but there's a number of items thereafter
So you're saying there would be other opportunities?
to be engaged. Yes.
I think it's worth discussing.
I do too.
Okay. I'll put an agenda item together for August.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Other staff reports?
None for me.
All good.
All right. And with that, we'll open it up for board member comments, reports. Please.
So it's come to my attention from the CIO that we have at Marina Coast Water District that there is a local group of CIOs that periodically get together. I've certainly been encouraging our CIO at Marina Coast Water District to try and participate in as many of those. I don't know who else from the cities are aware of that group or whether you have an IT person that might be participating in it. But Paul DeSauers, are you familiar with
I don't
this?
know. I will ask him. I know he has been involved in a number of things. We, as well as Russell, who's I think is up here, but I will check into that.
Okay.
The
thank you.
Monterey Bay one is what you're referencing.
Yeah, it's a local one. There's some national society that has a chapter in LA and a chapter up in the San Francisco Bay Area, but that'd be
yes.
a little inconvenient or our CIOs to trek up to San Jose or San Francisco for a quarterly meeting or whatever.
Yeah.
But it might be useful to tie these folks together, especially if AI gets frisky and quickly.
AI frisky? What? Anybody else? Thank you for that.
Yes.
I just want to publicly give gratitude to our vice chair for filling in for me being unexpectedly gone at the last meeting, and I heard he did a swimming job at it. So thank you, Kent, for filling in as chair unexpectedly, and especially during such a challenging meeting. So thank you for that.
No problem. I was happy to do it.
Oh, so we can do it again. Awesome.
That was
No, I
really
appreciate you for that.
diplomatic.
Last comment. I belong to the Association of Women in Water, Energy, and Environment. So I heard that there was going to be a tour of the Monterey One plant coming up. They asked me to be a speaker during the conference, but I may be out of town, so that's up in the air.
We may have given your name for that.
Oh.
So
Okay. Well,
that's great.
yeah. So
I love that.
yeah. So good outreach there.
It may be good to have. Do we have another? Is there another woman on the board? Are you the only woman on the board? Other than Tina. I mean, but Tina's like the alternate though. But maybe Tina could fill in.
Yeah, I don't think I think that they were looking for a native person in the
Yeah.
community to talk about water.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that was that. I don't think Paul did.
I did.
Oh, you did?
I did.
Oh, you did? Oh, okay, that's right.
I am going to be speaking at the
okay.
conference.
Oh, you are too.
And potentially Tyler too.
Oh, news to me.
This is the one we're texting about.
Oh, that's what you were messaging. You did message me about that. Okay, she did. I forgot about that. All right, awesome.
Tyler?
Yes.
Ask one other thing. Tammy just reminded me, and we'll have a discussion on this at the next board meeting. As many of you know, we requested a modification to our NPDES permit through the regional board, and they made some substantial changes that will affect this agency. We are expecting a draft for public comment coming out later this week. So once we have a little chance to digest it, we'll have an information item at the next board meeting to tell you about it, because it can be substantive.
Can you give us an example? Because the anticipation is killing me.
So there was a Supreme Court case up in the Bay Area that has changed the viewpoint of discharges to receiving waters. Those requirements they're trying to put on us as we speak, and there's frankly case law that substantiates it. So it looks like that is going to happen. It could result, it could result in additional projects to chlorinate or disinfect our discharge before it goes into the bay, and significant monitoring and sampling changes moving to the future. So relates to larger projects, more funds, et cetera. So it's one of those unfunded mandates that frequently come through to agencies like us and yourselves. But we'll have a better understanding of it after we see the public draft that comes out this week. And Matt, Tammy, our consultants are on top of it and have been commenting in hopes of trying to influence the outcome.
Awesome.
So, Paul, to chlorinate the discharge, so is due to anything like, I see that there have been readings of COVID, like locally or lately, reports that's anything to do with health?
No, it's more of just impact to the ecosystem. Hence the reason our outfall was originally constructed to be 2 miles offshore. It addressed it at that point in time. With this new case law, it's just addressing the ecosystem, the environment.
Awesome. All right. Thank you for that, Paul. With that, we'll go to item 13, public comments on closed session items. This is an opportunity for the public to speak on closed session agenda items. The only closed session item is that we have is conference with legal counsel for existing litigation. M1W versus Anderson Pacific Engineering Construction, Inc., Monterey County Superior Court case. Anybody on Zoom wish to speak on this item? Can use the raise hand function. Anybody in the chamber wish to speak on this item? All right, seeing no public comments, we're going to go ahead and adjourn to closed session. Thank you, everybody. All righty. That's so creepy. Jim?
Yes, it's 7:49. The board has adjourned from closed session and there is no reportable action. Chair Williamson. I'll turn
All
it back
right,
to you.
meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Enjoy the sun while